I'm Nicola Coughlin, and for BBC Radio 4, this is history's youngest heroes. Rebellion, risk, and the radical power of youth.
She thought, right, I'll just do it. She thought about others rather than herself.
12 stories of extraordinary young people from across history.
There's a real sense of urgency in them, that resistance has to be mounted, it has to be mounted now.
Follow history's youngest heroes wherever you get your podcasts.
In Mississippi, Yazoo Clay keeps secrets.
7,000 bodies out there or more.
A forgotten asylum cemetery.
It was my family's mystery.
Shame, guilt, propriety. Something keeps it all buried deep. Until it's not. I'm Larison Campbell, and this is Under Yazoo Clay. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Maddie Foley. I'm a producer here at Wonder Media Network, and I'm so excited to be guest hosting this episode of Womanica. This month, we're talking about cultivators. Women who nurtured, cross-pollinated, experimented, or went to great lengths to better understand and protect the natural world. Today, we're talking about a woman who found the sacred in the sun-drenched mountains. Originally from Philadelphia, she devoted much of her life to studying the Rocky Mountains in Canada, scaling high peaks, photographing glaciers, and painting wildflower blooms. Please welcome Mary Vaux Walcott. Mary Vaux was born in 1860 to a family of prominent Pennsylvania Quakers. Mary's family valued, above all else, modesty, devotion to God, and the pursuit of knowledge. In this spirit, Mary's parents ensured that she and her two brothers would receive a good education. However, Mary never got the chance to go to college. Her mother died when she was young, leaving Mary with the responsibility of running family matters and attending to the family farm. When Mary was 27 years old, she took a cross-continent trip with her family. Riding the Canadian Pacific Railway, they passed through mountain ranges, prairies, rolling hills, scenic lakesides, and towering forests. In the Rocky Mountains, Mary and her brothers were captivated by the Île-à-Silhouette Glacier. They sketched, measured, and photographed the glacier. Still captivated by what they saw in the Rockies 7 years later, the Vaux family returned to the glacier, only to find that it had receded significantly. Mary and her brothers decided to return summer after summer to measure and document the changes. Mary's primary job was to stay in the tent and develop the negatives, producing crisp black and white images that are still lauded for their quality today. Between 1897 and 1912, they took roughly 2,500 photographs. This was one of the first thorough records of glacial studies in Canada. In exchange for free rail passes and guided service, Mary and her family wrote and illustrated a pamphlet for the Canadian Pacific Railway, showcasing all they had come to know and love about the Rockies. The siblings became founding members of the Alpine Club of Canada and were frequent mountaineers. After climbing Mount Stephen, Mary was named the first woman in Canada to ascend a mountain over 10,000 feet. To commemorate this achievement, a mountain was named after her in Jasper National Park in Alberta. Around 1912, Mary took on the mantle of glacier research alone. Her youngest brother passed away in 1908, and her older brother's life turned hectic. But no matter, Mary was happy in the clear-aired solitude of the Rockies. The wilderness was a sacred place where she could, in the words of a contemporary Quaker, take in her Creator's handiwork. It was among the trees that Mary started to paint watercolors. Generally, the Quaker community considered art to be vain and unnecessary. Art as a means of scientific exploration and documentation, however, was a different story. Mary embraced this mix of her two loves, art and natural sciences, and painted countless alpine wildflowers. she'd travel around by horseback, painting materials and camera equipment strapped carefully to her saddle. Mary didn't need to sketch first. She'd just look at the flower and get to work, pressing cool, wet brush to paint and then paper. Sometimes she'd light a fire to keep her fingers warm while she worked. Other times, she'd save a few blooms in a cup of water to paint them by daylight. Through frequent travel and careful documentation, she painted flowers with even the shortest growing seasons all across the United States and Canada. Mary was single for much of her life, as she was dedicated to caring for her elderly father. But she did rebel against her beloved father when she married a non-Quaker man later in her life. His name was Dr. Charles Walcott, and he was a geologist, paleontologist, and administrator of the Smithsonian Institution. They met during field research when Charles discovered invertebrate fossils in the Burgess Shale. It's now part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The couple shared a fondness for science, art, and the outdoors. They split their time between Washington, D.C. and the mountains in the West. In 1925, Mary's watercolor works were compiled into a 5-volume series entitled North American Wildflowers. The book earned her the reputation as the Audubon of the floral world. When Mary wasn't communing with nature, she was giving talks and serving on boards to discuss nature. In 1936, 2,000 people gathered in Toronto to hear her speak about wildflowers. In 1940, Mary passed away. Upon her death, she bequeathed $400,000 to the Smithsonian Institution. All month, we're talking about cultivators. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Thanks to co-creators Jenny and Liz Kaplan for letting me guest host. As always, we're taking a break for the weekend. Talk to you on Monday.
I'm Nicola Coughlin, and for BBC Radio 4, this is history's youngest heroes. Rebellion, risk, and the radical power of youth.
She thought, right, I'll just do it. She thought about others rather than herself.
12 stories of extraordinary young people from across history.
There's a real sense of urgency in them, that resistance has to be mounted now.
Follow history's youngest heroes wherever you get your podcasts.
In Mississippi, Yazoo Clay keeps secrets.
7,000 bodies out there or more.
A forgotten asylum cemetery.
It was my family's mystery.
Shame, guilt, propriety. Something keeps it all buried deep. Until it's not. I'm Larison Campbell, and this is Under Yazoo Clay. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.